Hey, y'all. It's your girl, Tamika Hall here, and welcome to the Blessed Sellers List. Yes, it's the Blessed Sellers List. This is where authors come to tell their story and share their story, and God gets all of the glory. So I'm really excited that you are joining me tonight. This is the second episode. Listen, y'all showed up last week. We had over 700 people that were on the live. So thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for all your comments, your questions, and all of that great stuff. And what I want you to do right now, I want you to share this out as well. Share it to all your pages, tag someone, share it to your friend, your fish, your gerbil. Everybody needs to be on this stream tonight. I'm really excited because we have Pastor Sybil Bull and we have Bishop J. Anthony Dickerson that are on here. They're live with me. And as soon as we come back, we're gonna just get everything cracking. So I want you to keep it locked right here. Hey, yo, turn my mic up. It's been 10 years on the air, and her royal loudness is back bigger and louder than ever. Join me every Monday at 6 p.m. for great music, interviews, news you can lose, and a word from Minister Patty. Yeah, I got the petty word for you too. So listen, get ready for the Tamika Hall radio show. Yes, get ready for the Tamika Hall radio show. Listen, I'm really excited to be bringing Pastor Sybil Bull on here. Let me tell you, she knew me before I knew myself. Y'all don't even understand. I've known, I affectionately call her First Lady. I have known her since I was 16 years old, had a bad attitude, and just had a whole bunch of issues going on. So she is definitely, I've grown up with her. She has grown up with me, giving me so much tutelage and different things like that over the years. And I just adore her. And so I'm excited to be able to bring on Pastor Sybil Bull to talk about her new book, Just Appetizers. Y'all put your virtual hands together for Pastor Sybil Bull. Pastor Bull, how you doing tonight?
I am well. I am so grateful and excited to be here.
You look beautiful. I mean, and I knew that you would. And I'm going to tell you, I got ready. I put on my little perfume and all that stuff. I knew nobody could smell it, but I put on my favorite J'adore. Right. And you always smell good. I know everybody at church will be able to attest to that. So what perfume are you wearing today?
Listen, what am I wearing today? It's something I grabbed it from Marshall, so I don't remember the name. It was like $10. So I was
but like, it probably smells like 1,000.
Yeah, it's like and smell.
Yes, I know everybody on here is listening. They're like, yeah, First Lady always smells good. So folks, if you are tuned in, thank you so much for tuning in. If you have not shared it, go ahead and share this out. You can leave comments. And if you're already kind of following StreamYard, I'll be able to stream your comments across here. And Pastor Sybil will be able to know that you are here and you're tuned in with us as well. So, all right, Pastor Sybil. Let's lay down some stuff. You're a wifey. You're a mommy. Like you're a mommy to, honestly, nations at this point. You know, you've birthed so many, but you have 7 that you actually birthed out. You are, because I had to write it out. I was like, Pastor Sybil does so much stuff. You're an author. You're an entrepreneur. You are an international speaker. Okay, talk to us about balance. How do you balance everything?
Okay, so I don't believe there's balance. No. So let me just say this. Someone made that up to drive us crazy. I'll say that first. Yeah, someone made that up to drive us crazy. What I do know is God told me that you cannot achieve balance without order. Ooh. So if you think about a scale, when you go to balance the scale out, there has to be a certain amount of weight equal on each part of the scale. So when we look at our lives and we think about the weights that we're carrying, which is our responsibilities and all the things we have to do, it has to be balanced. And the biggest part of the order has to be God first. So it has to be the biggest part that's in your life to balance out everything else. And that's how you get balance. That's my definition. That's what I've been living by. When there's misorder or missteps and my life is crazy, I always go back and say, okay, girl, you ain't in order. Where God at? Where God at? The weight has shifted. So something's getting more attention than God. And then once I get it where it's supposed to be, peace.
That's really good because I like to ask people, especially those who do a lot of things. It's like, okay, where does the balance come in? And nobody's ever been able to explain it like that. But it really does make sense because you're right. I mean, it's like, okay, where's the weight? What are you prioritizing at the moment? And that just makes so much sense. I love that. So we talked about briefly that you're a mother to 7, like you have 7 of your own children that you birthed. And for 20 years, you were a stay-at-home mom. So for all the mommies that are out there, I would love to know, was there ever a moment where you felt like you lost yourself? And if that's the case, how did you find yourself again to become who we see in front of us today?
So you said we have 30 days. What are we going to talk about?
Right.
Okay, so let me see if I can bring it in. Yes, to your question, there were hundreds of days and thousands of hours that I knew that I had lost myself. One of the things that I certainly recall is when I was in my 20s, because we had our first child at 21, who's now 31. And so so I recall just around there, like I was having my first child, and it's like, this is not what I signed up for. This is not what my mom said. And then the independent person whom I was just, she was in there fighting, you're not doing what you said. So there's many times where I got lost in the mommy role, in the first lady role, in the leadership role, in the wife role, serving everybody, doing everything, where I was just like, okay, where do I fit in? And I was about 35, maybe 36, when I really was able to capitalize on the fact that I needed to grow as a woman, not just everything else. So that's really where I was when I discovered me. I was like, oh, the mom, the wife, the leader, the teacher, the baker, the dentist, the doctor,
right?
Woman. So
that's kisser, all of them.
All of that.
I love the fact that, because oftentimes the buzzword right now is about self-care and everybody's saying it's not selfish to have self-care, but it really isn't. And I think that that's good that you were able to say, listen, at some point I had to discover that, I got to take care of the woman that is within me. Because honestly, when we're happy, everything really does flow better in our life. I mean, it really, really does. And which leads us to Just Appetizers, small principles for life's big hunger. Why now? Why the book now? Why was this the time?
Why was this the time? Okay. Why? Because I felt like I was late. I had started off writing a blog, and about 6 years ago, I was away for my birthday and I said, I want to write a blog. And I was like, what is it going to be? And it says, I got it. Boom, Just Appetizers. It's unconventional, but I love wisdom. I love sharing principles. And so as I began to move forward, I realized, you know what? I could actually make this into a book. How? I don't know. But I felt very strongly that this was the moment for me to push it through. And because God had already told me, you're supposed to be an author. And if anyone knows, you wrestle with the things that God say, you don't jump up and say, yes, I am. And so in that moment, I felt that people would need to know just small principles. We're in a rush. Life is fast. I remember for myself, I loved reading, but I didn't have a lot of time to do it. And so now here we are in COVID and everything that has happened. It was for me the perfect time because although people were home, they had more concentrated things they had to accomplish. So grabbing my book, a little appetizer, something that you can meditate on, I believe was the right time for me.
So one of my favorite I would say little mini devotionals from the book was, I believe it's on page 27, and it says, join me or just watch me. Life is filled with spectators and celebrators. It's up to you to know the difference. How did you start knowing the difference? Because when we start walking who God has called us to be, both of them come out in droves. So how did you begin to learn the difference between your spectators and the people that are actually celebrating you?
That's an excellent question. So I would say number one, pain. The pain that comes with discovering and learning, right? And so everyone that shows up enthusiastic and they're just all there for you. Sometimes they're the loudest people clapping and screaming. But if you look around, they're not doing anything. They're just doing a lot of lip service. They're there for you. They got a lot of observation, but the person who's really there for you don't always come in loud. Sometimes that person is very quiet. They're like, I've got you. They're the person's like, you got to go somewhere. I'll drive you. I'll give you gas money. I'll do whatever. Those are the people that are quiet, but they are your real supporters. They're really there for you, but you don't always see them because they're not loud. And I had to learn that because I was like, oh, I believe in you. I'm here for you. I got you all day, every day. Those people eventually get tired of cheering you on because they do notice what you're doing. And eventually they have to find someone else to cheer on because, jealousy does creep in. And sometimes people are just not really able to handle what you said you're going to do when it starts happening. That's just how you watch. That's how it happens.
That's just what it is. That's just what it is. Mm-hmm. So Pastor Sybil, tell us, how can we find the book? Because it actually shot to bestseller within like a day. So how can we be part of this best-selling legacy?
Okay, so you can be a part of the best-selling legacy at SybilBull.com. Now, of course, we're on Amazon, but I would love for you to get it off my website because I do personalizing and all that. And I just like to pray over it, make sure you get what you need out of that book. So go to my website, SybilBull.com. And again, I'm on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. We have the Kindle version, and I'm working on the audio. Yeah,
and I was just thinking that today. I was like, we need her voice in audio, to serenade me to sleep. Like, know the difference, Tamika. And I'm like, you're right, Pastor. You're right. You're right, First Lady. Folks, you heard it right here. Now, Pastor Sybil is actually going to be coming back with us toward the end of the show in just a little bit. I want you to please go to SybilBull.com and grab your copy of the book, Just Appetizers, Small Principles for Life's Big Hunger. When I come back, I have Bishop J. Anthony Dickerson. You got to say the whole thing, like the whole entire thing. He's going to be on here talking about his book, Powerful Prayers That Will Shift the Atmosphere. So listen, don't go anywhere. Keep it locked right here.
I Worship 96 STEM Radio. Stay connected to us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at I Worship 96. Visit our website, www.iworship96.com.
That's right. That's right. I want you to tune into iworship96.com. Do it all day, every day. We're on 24/7 for the best in gospel and Christian music. So I'm so excited to be bringing to the virtual building Bishop J. Anthony Dickerson. We're here to talk about his new book. And I had such an incredible time being able to connect with him and work with him on this book. Working with him on this book, I was crying all the time. It didn't make any sense. And it really is because the prayers are definitely powerful and they totally shift the atmosphere, not only, where you are, but even your mental state. And I'll tell you, I've been a totally different person after being able to read the book. I had the opportunity to edit, but to be able to read it and what have you, I had the opportunity to just connect with him. So with that being said, Bishop J. Anthony, well, hello. Those on the Eastern Shore, Black folks say Anthony. They put the F in there. I want y'all to work on that. Bishop J. Anthony Dickerson, welcome back to the Tamika Hall Show. Thank you so much for being here on the Blessed-Sellers List. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be on your show.
Yeah. So Bishop, now we're talking about prayers now. I want you to be honest. Talk to us about a recent time that you had to pray before you got out of character. Now, me, on a personal level, I was trying to get out of a parking garage on Saturday and thought I was about to lose my mind because I couldn't understand why they wouldn't accept my ticket. I had already prepaid to get out of there. I was yelling at people in the intercom and I was like, girl, get your life together. So when did you have to shift and pray through a situation?
Well, I was, I'm a job readiness counselor. My background is a career facilitator, which is a national certification where I can help individuals with their career. And this one supervisor really came out of character with me. And I had to say to myself, I don't believe this is happening. And so I had to really take a step back, because the Bible says when a man can't rule his own spirit, he's like a city without walls. So I had to really train myself to really take a step back and not lash out. The Word of God says, always, I have a saying, never handle a situation on the level that has been presented. Sometimes you got to be the bigger person. And I had to really pray. And so I would not come out of character.
Yeah, so you wouldn't come out of character. My God, my God. So, Bishop, how have you been kind of handling things with COVID and what have you? I know that actually, I'm going to shift for a second. When everything erupted and, we were dealing with, the situation where Black folks were being terrorized. We were kind of going through a second pandemic. One of the things that you did is you started praying.
Right.
And you were prayed on Facebook, you were fasting, you called a fast for the police officers.
Yes.
So how has that been going? Because you were getting some major reactions from people, police officers during that time.
Absolutely. One of the police officers stopped me intentionally and says, I read your prayers. I thought maybe he was going to give me a ticket, but he stopped, and it had an impact. And a lot of people was calling me because of that whole fear. The Bible says, I have not given you a spirit of fear, but a power and a love and a sound mind. And it's that whole fear that that people are dealing with. And so I just began to hear the Spirit of the Lord, and he just wanted me to intercede and begin to bind the spirit of fear and take authority over the spirit of fear. So it's been amazing. A lot of times we have to be obedient to God. We can't just do what we feel like doing, because a lot of times, we have to ask God, is this my assignment for this particular day? It may be your assignment. It may be just something that you want to do. So you got to be clear. You got to be clear about what is it that God has you during this pandemic. What is it? What is God saying? What are the prayers that you need to pray? Not just do it because you feel as though that you can, because some people do things because they can do it and not because they have been assigned to do it.
So one of your assignments was actually to pen the book, Powerful Prayers That Will Shift the Atmosphere. So this book hit #1 before we ever even told anybody that it was available.
Absolutely.
Because I had a whole strategy planned out, and y'all don't understand. I had told Bishop, okay, Bishop, don't tell anybody, don't show the cover yet, don't do X, Y, and Z. But God clearly had other plans. It hit #1 in paperback before it was ever released. Yeah. So talk to us about the assignment of actually penning the book, Powerful Prayers. Why did you decide to pen this particular book?
Well, a couple of years ago, the Lord told me just post prayers on Facebook. I saw, when I looked at Facebook, I saw three things. I saw negative people with negative statuses with never-ending problems. And I says, I got to post things that is going to cause individual to think. Because the thing is, we have to pray spiritual warfares, because we're not wrestling against flesh and blood. We're wrestling against principality. This whole COVID is behind COVID is the spirit of the python. That's a whole new different show. And so I had to write spiritual warfare prayers that will rock the enemy, because the Bible says that we have a form of godliness, but we deny the power thereof. And so we become religious when we don't tap into the power of the word. We just go through the motions. We have that formality, but it's the Holy Ghost that will empower us to begin to attack the enemy. So I began to write prayers that the Holy Spirit told me to write, and I began to just write some of the stuff I don't even remember until I went back and read it. I'm like, did I write that?
Now I'm gonna tell you one of the things that really struck me about when I asked for you and First Lady Sybil to be on here tonight, and I was like, this is the perfect pairing, and it just makes so much sense. So Pastor Sybil's book is Just Appetizers, and it's small nuggets, small bursts of inspiration. And your book, Powerful Prayers That Will Shift the Atmosphere, are powerful, but it's almost the same principle where the prayers are not extremely long. It's a burst. It speaks to a situation, and you have a specific kind of like a formula with each prayer. And I know that you didn't even think about it like that.
No,
but I love the fact that both of you wrote two different books, but the principles are almost the same. It's not something very, very long and drawn out. Why did you choose to keep the prayers relatively short. I mean, because sometimes we pray and sometimes folks can pray on a Sunday morning.
Mm-hmm.
And like the prayers are good, but
because one of the things I'm doing a series at the shelter. I'm doing a series at a Facebook Live called "How to Know That Your Prayers Are Answered." One of the things that I say is that the thing is you pray less, but you listen to God more. And so, because as I said on your last show, prayer is a dialogue and not a monologue. And I think prayer, we monologue, we do all the talking, but we never shut up long enough and allow God to really speak to us. Because the thing is, your prayers are already answered. Because the Bible says in Peter that by his divine power, God has already given us everything that pertaineth to life. What we're lacking is the knowledge, the know-how to appropriate the answer that God has given us. God has already given you the answer. Because, I always say, that's why I wore the shirt faith, FATH, for all I trust him. That's the acronym.
Okay. And here, all this time, I just thought it stood for faith. Like,
because
I like that.
Yes, faith is taking that which is unseen and bringing it into the reality. So it's already done in the spirit realm. You got to take what's already done in the spirit realm and bring it into the realm of reality.
Wow. What's been the reaction to the book?
Ooh, oh my gosh. I mean, people
besides me crying during editing.
Yes.
I mean, like
people have been calling me. There's a gentleman that had COVID-19.
Wow.
He read my prayer on 38, says, I got my second wind back.
What?
This guy, within 24 hours, God cleared his lungs.
Woo!
And God literally began to heal him. And the testimonies are coming in. Lady has been reading, and she tells everybody, you got to get my husband book, not because
he's telling me.
Right, but page 28, and I shall be healed. A lot of people has been going to that prayer, and God has been miraculously healing people and delivering people and setting people free.
Amen. I mean, and you do have a collection of different types of prayers in there. Mm-hmm. What's another one that another prayer that has been one that people have been really flocking to?
Yeah, actually, the first one has been popular is Yes, I Will Succeed. A gentleman was struggling in business. He said, Bishop, I need you to touch and agree with me that God will bless me in business. And he says, I didn't read the rest of the book. I read one prayer. And within 24 hours, this guy brought a truck, quit both of his jobs, and now he's on the road. God has established his business. I mean, I've never seen that in my life.
That's a blessing. That is awesome. Okay, so Bishop, how can folks get a copy of your book?
Well, they can go on Amazon. My website is under construction. So I'll let everybody know when that's up and running. So we're going to be putting that right now either on Amazon, or they can contact me. I just got a fresh shipment in today. They can inbox me. I'll mail it to them. I'll make sure I autograph it. I'll make sure I pray over it. I'm like Lady Sybil. I'll definitely pray over it. Put the oil on it.
Put the oil on there. Yes. Now, Bishop Larry Trotter actually wrote the foreword. Has he gotten a copy of the book yet? Because you can't keep them in long enough.
I know. I got it. Yeah, that was my fault. But
Bishop Trotter, I guess you got to buy one because your son he keeps on selling it.
I'm guilty as charged. But
I just threw you under the bus, Bishop. I do love you though.
Yeah, love you too.
I just threw you under the bus.
I'll take a licking and keep on ticking.
There you go. So listen, folks, just like last week, I wanted to give you all an opportunity to send quick questions. And I'm going to be asking both of our best-selling, who are actually real life best-selling authors, a couple of questions, and that's coming up right after this.
Hey, I'm Latisse Crawford for season 2 of BET Sunday Best. Listen, I know firsthand what it means to perform under pressure, and the last thing I want to worry about, body odor. She's Ready deodorant capsules are vegan, gluten-free, and plant-based. One a day keeps you fresh 24/7. So if you want to be worry-free and odor-free, go to www.shesready.com.
Well, we're back. You are tuned into the Blesssellers List. I am your host, Tamika Hall. What it do? You guys are tuned into Tamika Hall Live I have two amazing guests on here who have just really been so instrumental in my life. We have Pastor Sybil Bull, who was here earlier talking about her book, Just Appetizers. So if you missed that, make sure you go to sybilbull.com to pick up a copy of her book. We also have Bishop J. Anthony Dickerson that's here. And we just got finished talking about his book, Powerful Prayers That Will Shift the Atmosphere. So, I'm trying to get both of you guys out of here very, very quickly, okay? Because both of you are busy. I have these two celebs here, y'all. That's why I told them to. I got the two celebs on the line.
You good? Don't rush. Don't rush.
Yes, the two celebs. So this is what I wanted to ask the both of you. And First Lady, I kind of asked you a little bit about that when I talked about why now, why was the time. But I want to talk about timing with the both of you because both of you have platforms. You're influencers. People know you, and I know over the years, folks have had to say, you should write a book. You should do a documentary. Like all these things, people have probably been speaking into your life. Talk to those who have the same thing where people are saying, you should do this and you should do that. How important is it for people to understand that there is a thing called God's timing before they do anything? We can start with you, Pastor Sybil.
Oh, okay. Okay, so we're speaking about God's timing, even though we've heard everything that people are saying, including what we've heard God say. Correct?
Sure.
Okay.
I said a lot. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. So let me backtrack a little bit. The Bible says in Ecclesiastes that there is this time, there is this purpose, there is this season. So we have the triune of all these things that we have to know before we even move forward. One of the things that we discover is that we hear a lot. And because we hear a lot, most of the time we get excited. So we get inspired. We sometimes we're not inspired, sometimes we're nervous, and sometimes we're scared. We have all these different emotions that go on. And I remember from my own self that there were moments that I would hear the voice of God and I would think that he was speaking for me to do it now. Like it sounded as if he said it Monday, I'm supposed to have it done by Wednesday. And because we hear what we hear in eternity, I'm going to get spiritual for a moment. We hear what we hear in eternity. There is, of course, the timeline that's predestined on our lives before we got here. And there's something inside of us. This is what I've experienced, and everyone has their different experiences. But I believe that the God part of me and the God part of you speaks to us and says, now is the time. There is this agreement in the spirit realm that happens to us that says this is the time. There is this grace that comes along with our timing. I found that it's like having a baby. So you can say all day, you tired of you ready to have this baby, you ready to have this baby, you ready to have this baby, I'm tired of and that's right. What it feels. You feel anxious, you could feel a lot of emotions, you could get tired of waiting, whatever it could be. But it's the concept is until that baby is supposed to come, there is nothing you can do until the pain hits you, till the labor hits you, till the signs are there that says, now's the time to launch, now's the time to write, now's the time to start. The environment is also conducive to what God is speaking for you to do. And there is an agreement between the God in you and the God of the universe that has created you that says, this is it. And then there's grace. That's where I go. When there's no grace, you are working in your own self. You are trying to create something under this weight and this pressure and this burden because you don't want to look like you failed, but you don't have the grace that causes everything to activate, favor to be in your life, and also for it to look like it's so easy breezy. You know it's not, but because there's grace, it appears as if there is this smoothness that happens, and also you're able to touch anything and it just prospers, as it says in Psalms 1. And so for me, that's how I know the timing, because I had to learn it the hard way. Okay, that was you. That wasn't even God's timing. You heard right, but you weren't going by the rhythm of what the timing was. And so that's what I'll say.
So Bishop, I know that you have a meeting to go to. Is there anything that you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I just want to say, there's two types of time. There's Chronos and then there's Kairos. Chronos is the time that is now. Kairos is God's set time. And so God's set time is, we have to move in the timing of God, so that what God has to fulfill in us and through us, that it will deliver what that he's placed inside us. So God's timing is so important. I wanted to do this book so many times, and it seemed like it would not come together. But it seemed like when COVID-19 hit, that's when God says, okay, let's move forward. And you're going to begin to see the manifestation of the power of God. And people that I didn't even think would ever buy my book, it's buying it. One lady I told you today, she was like, I don't do well with local authors. Matter of fact, I had a red pen and I would just wanted to see if there was any mistakes.
I'm holding my face.
But she
I'll put you on. I'm gonna put you on full, Bishops, because I gotta fix my face.
Yeah, and so that's what I thank God for his timing. And so you have to move in the time and everything you do. Just like you got to be in the right position, because if you're in the wrong position, then the right position is vacant. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. To both of those points. And I haven't developed like the stone face like you, First Lady. So when people say things like that, like when Bishop said it to me, I just was like, I can't stand when people do stuff like that, because people often. So actually, one last question then. How do you deal with naysayers, or with the two of you? I mean, this may sound crazy, but at your level of people knowing you and what have you, do you still deal with naysayers? I mean, and if so, how do you deal with them?
Go ahead, Bishop.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's, one of the things that my instructor says, don't entertain ignorance. So I just don't entertain it, because the thing is, who would ever think manure causes things to grow? I preached a message one time, let the dirt work. And so the more they do, the more they throw dirt on me, the more I'm going to grow. So I just let the dirt work, because the thing is, if you plant a seed is not going to grow on a hard surface. But the thing is, the seed is going to grow in dirt. So I thank God for my haters, because my haters are helping me to grow to the level that God has already predestined for me. So, yeah. And on that note, I'm going to sign off. All right.
All right. Bye, Bishop. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, First Lady, can I ask you two questions? So I wanted to ask you, what was the hardest part about writing your book?
Oh my goodness. Okay, let's get vulnerable.
Yes. It's just you and I.
It's just
and everybody else
is listening quietly.
Yes.
Honestly, the hardest part of writing my book was believing in myself. And believing in myself, the inner voices that I had to combat and pull down, those vain imaginations, where although I had been speaking for years, although I had, been impacting and empowering people, I didn't have confidence in the penmanship, saying that, I'm going to write this, someone's going to read it. I had convinced myself that books were irrelevant in this time now. Who's going to read a book? Who's going to want to read your book? There's so many books out there. And so for me, it was the inner battle of believing in myself to be an author. That was really what it is.
I appreciate you being vulnerable, because honestly, as somebody who works with authors, oftentimes the biggest issue is the fear, and it's within. And I think most of us would sit back, especially those of us who we've taught under you, we've grown up under you. We would never think that you, who, very prolific word, God gives you all of that. I'm sure a lot of people are like, what? First Lady had to combat, some inner things. And so thank you so much for just being vulnerable with that. What's the first step on moving past the inner fear that we maybe have?
The inner fear, the insecurities.
There it is. That's the word. I was trying to inner fear. What's inner fear?
Insecurities.
Right. I couldn't think of the word. Inner fear. Yeah.
No, there's fear too, but it was to continue to do it. That I told myself that there was something valuable that I had to say. Number one. Number two, that I had made myself the center of attention. And so it was no longer about the assignment of God.
Woo!
And number three, being uncomfortable, right. That's the 3 things that I did. And that's how I finished the book. And guess what? I did a first draft to a second book since we've been in COVID. So now I got a second book because I understand how it works. But that's what I had to overcome. I had to stop. I had to do it, but I had to stop being the center of attention and remember the purpose behind the authorship.
It's amazing how it always goes back to purpose, you know, and sometimes we just have to do it afraid. And it just always goes back to purpose. And so I feel like you've already kind of answered this question, but I'm sure you probably have something else. And I'm seeing a lot of comments where people are saying thank you. So thank you so much, Kayla, for that. We have Trina on here. We have so many folks that are on here, and a lot of people are saying thank you, and they're appreciating what you're saying. So do you have any advice for any aspiring authors that may be out there? And for folks that are tuned in, this is the moment to get your questions in because we are winding down, and it takes me a moment to actually see what your comments are. So,
okay, let me make sure. You said, you want me to say one thing?
Do you have any advice for authors, those who are aspiring to write and really don't know where to start?
Those who are aspiring to write and don't know where to start. I would say don't write anything you don't know about. Don't write anything you're not passionate about.
Come on.
Those things. So because the majority is doing certain things, don't jump on the bandwagon. Don't just be doing stuff because you think that's what you should do. And I want to encourage you to be comfortable with the way you receive information and the way you would want to share the information. One of the main things for me was I wanted to have an authentic voice. That was really mine. So if I be like, yeah,
right.
But this is how I see it. I wanted that to be felt in the words that I was going to write. So I wanted it to be authentic. So I would always say, be authentic. Don't be so quick to want to sound polished and all the grammars and everything is good. Be who you are, and someone that reads it will hear you and receive how you have given it. So, and the next thing is, I would say, find someone who's already written a book. And if they do coaching and mentorship, or ask them 150 questions, I actually called up a couple of my friends and I asked questions, and I thought it was just about writing a book, but they gave me so much more information than I even expected. So when you're ignorant about something, you should sit with someone who has knowledge and understanding, like Tamika, and make sure that you don't shy away because you're uncomfortable exposing yourself to someone who has the knowledge because you don't. That's where iron sharpens iron, and that's what we have to do. So that's what I would say.
I love that. Iron sharpens iron. And I'm sorry, I do have another question because, of course, I've been referring to you as Pastor Sybil Bull, referring to you as First Lady and all those things. But there's so much more to you than the titles of that. And I've noticed that in your branding and evolving as being an entrepreneur and even going into authorship, not that you stepped away from that, but you're really moving as Sybil Bull when it comes to being the author. Was that difficult for you to make that decision? And how did you decide how to brand you, the woman, Sybil Bull, versus Pastor First Lady? Does that make sense? I know I said a lot.
Absolutely. No, it makes lots and lots of sense. So first, when I was born, I was born Sybil,
Come on, think about it.
I was born Sybil. That's the seed. And so what God does with us, because we are created in his image and in his likeness, is that he gives us the grace to do what we're supposed to do, right? But the essence of who I am, the essence of who you are, is not in the title. It is in the being. So a lot of times what we do is we get caught in all of our doing. So we become, the great cook, the chef, the this, the that, but we haven't evolved into the pure holistic self of who we are. And then everything else kind of shoots out. So if I had a diagram, I would put Sybil in the middle and I'm like author, and everything else comes out of.
Yeah.
So if you think about yourself like Jesus is the Son of God, right? He is the Trinity, but he's also the healer. He was a sacrificial lamb. He was all these other things. But when it comes down to the core of who you are, I'm Sybil Bull. And these are the things that God has given me to do through the grace and through the assignment on the earth to enrich other people. And I just do it that way. And I just had to get to the core of who I am to do what I had to do. And it wasn't hard. It wasn't hard. I had to say to myself, are they ready for me? Because they only know me this way. That's the question that I ask. And I know that others will probably ask the same questions, because sometimes people know you as a yellow banana, but they are always thrown off when you show up as an orange, because they only put you in one category. And so for me, I had to make sure that I burst out of the category as God has called me to do and be the holistic being of who I am. So that's why Sybil Bull has evolved.
Yeah. And I think evolution, especially, well, for everyone, but especially for women, it's so important, because at some point we just kind of get it. I mean, I was talking to you before and I'm like, I'm about to turn 40 and I just don't take mess off of it. And listen, like everything, I'm like, I'm 40. You're not gonna talk to me. Like, it's crazy. I'm like, girl, you're 40, like get your life together. But was there a certain age where that kind of set in, where you loved yourself the right way? You saw yourself who you were in God and you just accepted yourself. Was there a certain age that happened for you?
I believe it started for me. I'll go back to my 30s. It started, I always remember this, and I tell this story to the women's ministry. I remember one day I felt like I was having a panic attack and I was just being so dramatic, and I went for this walk. And I was like, I don't know what's going on with my life. Just the whole, shebang of overloading of emotions that I haven't processed. And I was like, I have no friends and I don't know, and I was just going on. And I remember thinking, you're everything but a woman. Who is she? Who is she? Who is this creation of the woman that God has called me to be? There's man, and then he's pulled out of man this woman, and I understand this. And I'm here on this earth, but who am I? So I have to say I was about 35 when the journey began. And I began to say, well, I don't even like that. I don't even want to do this.
Yeah.
I was about 35 and it was a fight. It was a fight. It was a fight, not so much. Once I got past the external things, the fight was really inner. It was this inner fight of the voices, the shame, the experiences, the disappointments, the rejection, having to battle that, come to terms with that, be healed from it, restored to become the person that I always knew God was saying that I am. That's where I was. So I've been doing that for years and years. So then I remember when I was in my 40s, I was like, I'm a real person. These kids gonna find out that I'm just not their mom. And so I'm a real person. And so I didn't say that to them, but I began to create the way they would treat me, not just as their mom, but an actual person that they saw beyond their needs.
Wow.
Their the cab driver, all of those things, but seeing me as a real person. And because I began to create this kind of persona between my children and I no longer was just their mom. They were like, wow, mom's a business. Oh wait, mom's smart. Oh,
mom's kind of dope there.
But it took me having to relate to those who were in my small core community and saying, hey, I'd like to introduce you to who I am, not verbally saying it, but living it out. So I love it. Yeah.
I could just talk to you all day. And we have, and especially now, we have pretty much all women that are tuned in right now. And it's like, it's like a masterclass in womanhood at the moment. And so it's like, I don't want to keep running. Yeah, it's like and typically I would probably have a bunch of questions, but everybody's just, they're in agreement and with everything. And I think I really kind of started on that road probably at 37. And I was just like, you've been on this cycle. And we got to break some things. And I decided to go to therapy. And, I was in therapy for about 18 months. And my therapist was like, you're good. I was like, you think so? Like, she released me. So I was like, okay, cool, And, but I think by the time that I really just embraced everything, I made it a point this year. I was like, girl, we're going to get your teeth fixed. First lady, I'm getting my teeth fixed, girl. I have my
right now, though. What you gonna do your little thing?
I have my aligners, so things that I always wanted to do for me that I used to want to do I wanted to do it for the attention of a man, or I used to want to do it because I felt like that's what people wanted to see on stage. I just started living for myself. And Trina actually just said that. She said, just live it out. And it's a beautiful thing when you get to that place. It's a beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful thing. And this is what I would like to just plug in for everyone listening. If you're in the middle, if you're at the beginning, or if you've completed what we call the evolving, the transformation, I want you to always be empathetic to the other woman, because what happens is we either forget that we had to go through some things. We all have our butterfly experience, right? I don't know what's wrong with her. How can, it's those moments that brings me back to remember I really had to fight to get here. And when I see a woman who's living in her freedom to be who she's supposed to be, I understand that she had to fight to get there. And so I'm more than willing to be Harriet Tubman in the 21st century.
I'm going to pull us along.
I'm coming to get you. You coming to freedom, sis. So that's how I see it. That's how I'm living it. I believe that we're all here to help each other and to showcase. So if you're jealous, I know that you're jealous for a reason. There's still some healing that needs to take place. Sometimes we're malicious. Sometimes we're doing things out of the pain zone. That's not who we really are. We've all acted and done things that were outside of our pain zone. And so for me, I'm just like, as a woman, I want to plug that in, that we never want to forget the journey. I'm always conscious. I have 5 girls. I tell them about my journey. I said, listen, I'm not even talking to you like your mom. I'm talking to you woman to woman. Let me have a conversation with you. Let me tell you how it really goes down. And they're like, oh, okay, mom, because I'm not giving you the mom talk. I'm going to talk to you as a woman. I want you to grow up and be who you're called to be. And so that's important. So I just want to plug that in, that we be empathetic, compassionate, and patient with one another as we're going through the journey, because sometimes we're ugly.
We are ugly.
We
are ugly. We are just so ugly. I was talking to my daughter this morning, and she watched, she has all these little TikToks, she's about to be 16. So they're in the whole TikTok era. And some girl had been on there talking about how if a boy is 5'11", he can get it for free. And so one of the male followers responded, well, if you want to be skinny, you should lose weight. And so the conversation was kind of around, why do boys feel like they can talk about weight and da-da-da? And I'm like, but why are we not concerned about what she said? Right. That she's willing to give herself away. And I was so upset, but I had to remind myself, they're growing up, they're seeing what they're seeing. Their eye gates are just full of things that we never even had access to, a few years ago. And so you're right. It's like, we have to be very cognizant. Look, listen, everybody's pouring in. Great advice, Pastor Sybil. We got to really be conscious and loving on women and the young women that are coming up, because we are ugly. We can be so ugly. Yeah, we were ugly. I can say that I recall desiring someone when I was younger to be like that senior woman that I would be able to speak to, and that she would not judge me on the fact that I was learning how to be this woman. And a lot of what we're taught, this is my correction, this is my new mindset. I don't teach you how to do anything. I just want to teach you how to be yourself. And that is actually more work, because most people are so, like, the mindset is so stuck in doing it and doing it well and not failing, and my fear. And I said, the worst place you could be is to die having done all these great things and never lived who you are. And so that's not what I want for you. Of course, I'm going to get on some people's nerve, because I'm going to be out here saying, that's not you. I want you to be who you're supposed to be. But you're not supposed to be our best friend in that moment. You're the mentor. You're the pastor. You're pushing the midwife. I want you to come forward. I want you to come forward and be that. And there's so many people, Tamika, doing so many things well that are miserable. And the way that we are designed is, this is my meditation. When I get off, I think about Jesus, and he said his meat, which was his fulfillment, which was his place of prosperity, which was his happy place, was to do the will of the Father. And I was like, Lord, I got to live this out, and I got to be who I'm supposed to be. And that's where that inner place is. So I just want to plug that in. Listen, all these plugs are they're nice appetizers. This is good appetizers, great entrees. First lady, guess what? I can cook now. Listen.
I've been looking at your Instagram posts and I said, what? They look so nice.
Thank you. And I'm real dramatic. So of course I have to make sure everything looks restaurant quality before I eat it. It gets on my kids' nerves. They're like, why are you plating the food, Mom? I'm like, because I can cook now. Like, I remember talking to you when I was about 22 and I was like, I don't know how to cook. And you're like, Tamika, it's just seasoning. And I'm sitting here like, she been cooking for 7 kids and a husband, talking about it's just seasoning. Like, but I get so excited. And then I have to remember and be patient with the other woman. Because sometimes I'm like, why do you have that on your plate? I'm like, why are we eating that? Just go and make it. And like, girl, you just started cooking. Like, what? Like you just started cooking. Get yourself together.
There you go. We don't want to be so high. We forget where we've come from because we're gonna fall when we do that.
Because I didn't feel like I could cook until I actually made some real macaroni and cheese. Like so, Kayla's on here. Kayla knows she can kill it in the kitchen, and her macaroni and cheese is ridiculous. So when I made some macaroni and cheese and people liked it, I was just like, why are you not cooking your own macaroni and cheese? I was like, who uses Kraft anymore? Like, I was like,
still inspiring.
Right. I was like, girl, like you just learned, like you are new to this. Like, what is wrong with you? So anyway,
I love it.
First lady, I loved you being on here. Thank you so much for being so transparent and open. And thank you for this masterclass in womanhood, this women's conference that took place on a Tuesday night, July 28th. You're an absolute delight. And I just love that you never change. And, I'm telling you, I love getting little messages from you. And I cry all the time when you're like, Tamika, I'm so proud of you. And I'm like, Mom, listen, First Lady said she's proud of me. Like it was about a year or so ago. And you literally had no idea. I was really in such a broken place. And I think that was at that moment where I was really fighting for my freedom. I was really fighting to be free from so many different things, but really to be me. And when you sent me that inbox, you probably don't even remember it. It's still inside my Facebook because there have been so many times I went back and listened to it. Wonderful. And you just out of nowhere was just like, I just wanted to tell you, I see what you're doing. And I'm proud of you. And I was just like, oh, listen to what First Lady said about me. And I appreciate that. Thank you for always being an example. And
I remember about you. I remember that you were a big dreamer. And I remember this conversation that we had, and I loved it because you were like, this is what I want to do. And no one understands. They think that I'm just making up stories. I'm being dramatic. And I said, well, if that's what you are, then go for it. And I believed that you would do all those things. I believed that you would do all those things. And that when I seen you do it, I found a photo about 3 days ago. We were going through all these photos we're cleaning up. And it's of you on the stage at Powerhouse. And no, you were at the old church.
At the old one.
The old one. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to send it to you. Please. It just made me get so emotional. And I was like, look at this little sweetheart. She is all grown up and inspiring people, shaking up the devil's territory, winning souls, encouraging people, and doing kingdom. And you have gotten from here to here with the grace of God. Yes, I'm super proud of you. And you haven't even seen half of it because God gives us those little glimpses, And so I just believe that who you were, the story had to be the way it is. It makes for a good story. Come on now. Nobody likes a boring story. So it makes for a good story, all the drama and the flair and all the things. But I appreciate you. I will say this. Thank you for fighting for yourself.
Don't, First Lady.
Thank you for fighting for yourself. Do you know, this is what I tell my daughters when they're like, oh my God, it takes me so long. I said, people have died and never gotten there. People have lived a miserable life. Women have suffered and made excuses and stayed in the same mindset. And when you look at yourself as women, we're always, we look in the mirror like, you've got to do more, blah, blah, blah. But if you cannot celebrate this journey already where you are, and you have done an incredible job in your journey and fighting for yourself, that is no small task. That is no small task to fight for yourself, because there's so much that goes with that fight. And so even for those who are listening, if you're in the middle of it and you're saying you want to give up and you're so exhausted, I don't want you to give up on you. As a mom, I fought for my kids. I stayed up at night. I spent money. I did all of these things because I wanted them to have the best and I wanted them to grow up in a certain way. You got to do the same thing for yourself. Whatever it is, don't quit on yourself. That's what I kept saying. You can't quit. And that's what I'm going to tell you. You didn't quit. And I thank you for it. And here we are.
Here we are. I'm interviewing you. Yeah, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And it's so funny. And I promise I'm gonna end here. But I remember that moment. I knew what you were talking about because I haven't seen the picture. But that particular WOW conference was very life-changing for me. And I remember it was Lady Annette Carswell was pouring into my life that night. And you, like, she was here and you were here, and she was telling me to laugh and I couldn't laugh. And you were like, she needs to laugh. I still remember that. Like, you're like, she needs to laugh, but she was here and you were here. And then, and she spoke into my life and she said, you're going to be, she told me I was going to be interviewing people. And I never thought about it then. And one day, not too long ago, I was like, I'm doing everything she said.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, wow, God. And you said it earlier where it's like, God tells us that something's going to happen. It doesn't mean that that it's supposed to happen tomorrow. Sometimes, but a lot of times it's just a glimpse of who we're supposed to be. So we just hold on and we don't lose hope. And I think so that we can fight for ourselves. And so I appreciate you saying to us, and Lady Veronica just said this, come on now, celebrate where you are. Thank you for reminding all of us tonight to celebrate where you are. Katina said, amen, Pastor Sybil, because we're in agreement that we have to celebrate that and we have to fight for ourselves. And folks, I really, Trina said, yes, that soft, powerful voice. That voice will make you fall on the floor, won't it, Trina? I'm telling you, because I could not laugh. And Pastor Lady Annette was like, you need to laugh. And I was like, Lord, I can't laugh right now. And then First Lady was like, she needs to laugh. And I was just kind of like, ha, ha, ha. Like, okay, First Lady told me to laugh. I'm going to laugh. But yeah, that voice is everything. I've tried to exercise the powerful voice. I remember being a mom, being in your car one time when your kids were younger. I didn't have any children, and they were getting on your nerves. And very, very softly you said, you're disturbing my peace. I'm going to tell you, I've used that line as a teacher. I've used it with my children and it worked. But I had to remember the way you said it. You're disturbing my peace. Now, the kids in school didn't understand it. Your peace? What do you mean? So then, of course, I went loud. Like, you're doing the most. Okay? You're doing the most. But yeah, here you are. You're disturbing my peace. Yes. But it does. It calms everybody down. They shut up at least for a second. Even when they don't figure out. Kayla said, yes, that voice still gets me. I know, Kayla. Girls, that voice. I'd be like, oh, yes, First Lady. But anyway, we've had you long enough. I know Bishop wants your time. Yeah, Bishop wants your time as well. I appreciate you. Listen, folks, make sure that you head over to SybilBull.com. Now, listen, this is what's important. And authors, they don't ever tout themselves. And that's where I get to come in. When you buy their book from Amazon, that's beautiful. Because number one, it allows us to actually catalog the fact that we're bestsellers and all of that stuff. But when you order directly from the website, it actually helps out the author more. They're able to retain more revenue from that. It costs a lot of money to produce a book. It really does. There's a lot of money from the editor to the design work, to the time, to the marketing. So if you really want to sow into the ministry, because again, this is the Blessed Sellers List. So we're giving authors a platform to share their story, but God always gets the glory. And so if you're really wanting to sow into the ministry of Pastor Sybil Bull, who, when you see her speaking, she's Sybil Bull, but First Lady Pastor with the powerful small voice. If you really want to sow into her ministry, get your copy of Just Appetizers from SybilBull.com. It pours into her life more than you can imagine. Okay, so please do that. And listen, folks, make sure that you connect with me next week. We have another comment. Oh, wait. Oh, Trina's laughing. Trina, I don't know what you're laughing about, but I totally understand. We were laughing about the voice. I know. I totally know. But I love you, Pastor Sybil. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It's been
wonderful. Yeah, like this was so dope. And then, Bishop left off and it was just ladies' night after that. So, it was good. Everything happened.
That was the timing of God.
It was because we knew that you needed to pour into us for sure. Yeah. This has just been a blessing. Thank you for everybody that tuned in. Do me a favor. Once this is over, again, run to SybilBull.com, grab her book, but also share this out to your page because these are great nuggets that everybody can listen to. I'm going to keep this on my page. So if you want to be encouraged again, you can always come back to it. All right, you guys, remember, I love you. You were created to make God famous, and you all have a blessed night.